New twist in this Jordan Chiles bronze medal dispute, like you knew it would happen. Per the New York Times, Hamid Ghasri, the head of the panel that ruled American gymnast Jordan Chiles had to give up her Olympic bronze medal in favor of a Romanian athlete, check this out, has represented Romania for almost a decade in arbitration cases. Go figure. After Romanian lodged a complaint, the three members of a special tribunal convened for the Olympics by the Court of Arbitration for the Sports ruled that the successful appeal made by Coach Chiles, regarding the points awarded to her in the floor exercise competition was initiated 4 seconds late. Talk about doing your job, what you're paid for. This is King Petty right here. The decision to reallocate the medals outraged U.S. Olympic, black people too, and gymnast officials who have already threatened to take their flight all the way to the Swiss court. Now, for people that don't know, when the court that rules on cases as it pertains to the Olympics and international sports, once they rule, there really is nothing else you can do about that, and the Swiss court is the only option. So that's why American gymnasts and the Olympics are threatening to take it there. I think people sometimes figure out, like, why we keep going to Swiss if it ain't for cheese, Tehran? But this is really the reason we're going, because this is actually the only court that can actually do it, even though it's rare in that case.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Have you been following this story, man?
I've been following the story, and it's a very interesting situation. I feel like they do this to Jordan Chiles. If this was Jenny Chiles, I don't feel like it would be the same situation. There's just something inside me that feels that way. I obviously don't have the proof. So I think all of America's been watching this. But on the flip side, I also feel that as the United States, we also feel a lot of privilege when it comes to the rules. Like, well, it was only 4 seconds. But if that had benefited us, we wouldn't have felt the same way. So there's this give and take of how I feel in regards to the situation.
Yeah, and I mean, there are real people involved. We can talk about the Romanian athlete Ana Barbosas, who was awarded the bronze medal as a result of this panel decision, and Chiles was dropped to 5th place. The results left Chiles brokenhearted, as it, of course, with probably most people in this sport or anybody with the heart. They took her. This was her only individual medal, right? But on Sunday, August the 11th, ahead of the closing ceremony, Barbosa reacted on Instagram to the ruling, quote, "Sabrina, Jordan, my thoughts are with you. I know what you're feeling because I've been through it, the same thing. But I know you'll come back stronger," Barbosa wrote, addressing Chiles and her fellow teammate, Romanian gymnast, who moved to 5th and 4th place. That's how close this race was, man. So these people are extremely heated, and this merry-go-round that we find ourselves in is absolutely ridiculous. We also need to have maybe some repeat or replay added to the Olympic sports now that we're seeing what's at stake and what happens. And these 3 women were so close that this little bitty percentage point actually caused someone to move from 5th place to 3rd place, just like that, Tehran.
Yeah, it's actually, when it comes to gymnastics and the Olympics, it's the only time we actually, as a country, care about gymnastics is watching this Olympics. They only get this chance once every 4 years. And that's the heartbreak, is because unlike how I felt when I lost my basketball championship and had a chance the very next year to come back, this is 4 years removed. And especially in gymnastics, 4 years is a lifetime. Age and flexibility is everything. Jordan's gonna go from 23 to 27, I believe. And that's a huge gap for a gymnast's career.
Yeah, man. I also think, speaking of gymnast careers, let's just talk about gymnastics as a whole. This was the first time, we remember this. This was the first time ever that all 3 people on a podium were black in this sport, right? So what we know is this podium appearance actually has an asterisk beside it, and we would be more than naive if we didn't believe race and also this person's relationship with Romania didn't have something to say that. Now, I will say that no, there's been no proof to prove that, but let's get serious here. The reaction from the world after this award, when it was 3 black and Chiles was given this award, the reaction from the world was absolutely disgusting. I'm talking about nasty. I was reading people from outside of this country, people that English ain't even their first language, using the N word like it was their mother's middle name.
Yeah,
Tehran, this was happening, bro.
that's the whole thing, is that the one thing that has gone global, it's never been democracy, but it's always been racism. Racism is always globalized. And actually, Mayor Robinson, I actually think that we do have proof that there is a racial connotation to things. Let's not forget the historical racism that has presented itself in the Olympics, especially in these performing sports, such as ice skating, gymnastics. If you remember, there was Surya Bonali, who was the French ice skater, who was criticized for simply being more athletic than the other ice skaters. And that was tied directly to her race of being a Black French person. Then we also fast forward to recent history when we had gymnastics, when we had all of our gymnastics change, a shift into much more diverse and inclusive. There was a time where we saw a lot of white participants and Asian participants, and not a lot of people of color, and especially not a lot of Black people. Then we had that shift, and all of a sudden, the rules started changing. The things that gymnasts were allowed to do and not allowed to do started changing. When Black gymnasts were able to do certain maneuvers that their counterparts were not, we saw those being ostracized and then made illegal. There is a racial connotation to the Olympics, and we cannot forget that.
There you go, using facts. Who told you to bring facts to the show, right? People don't want to use facts; they want to pretend. I mean, let's get into what another part of it that creates friction for people. We don't really know what's going on in these deliberation. Tariq from the New York Times told us this: very little is known about the deliberation and how the panel reaches its verdict, with the court publishing just a one-page statement confirming the decision is made. A detailed document outlining the full reasoning behind the outcome will eventually be sent to all parties involved. USA Gymnastics said on Monday it had been notified by the court that that under its rules, the decision cannot be reconsidered, even when conclusive new evidence is presented. I don't even understand how this is real. Like, you're telling me that I can show you that you're wrong, I can show you evidence, but you're gonna be like, oh yeah, well, we've moved on, and it doesn't matter for the documenting of history to get right who actually won the bronze medal. It just mattered that we said it's right, so it's gonna right. Tariq went on to say that the Gymnastics Federation said it would continue to pursue every possible avenue for an appeal, including before the Swiss Federal Tribunal. That body, the only one that can hear an appeal against the decision by the CAS, the sports court, only consider breaches of process and not new evidence related to the case itself. I'll say this: I mean, even under these rules, you know what I'm saying, Tehran, it actually already is a breach in the process, because this person had significant conflict of interest by those rules put forth by International Bar Association. He should have already have removed himself, and that didn't happen. So if the Swiss courts don't pull this up, this is going to be a egg on their face for sure. What say you?
I say that the Olympics also has a history of neglect when it comes to making these kind of decisions. Obviously, the Hamid Karari, who was supposed to be in charge, who had a conflict of interest, who spent a decade representing Romania, should have recused themselves, understanding that, but the Olympics does not have a precedent for that. Then we also go further and say this, is that I feel the most for these two athletes, because one, the Romanian athlete wins a bronze, and then two, even if it becomes re-awarded to Jordan, then she's winning on a technicality, and there will always be an asterisk next to that name. That's like winning the championship in the bubble. No matter how many times the Lakers won in that bubble, it never actually counted. And that's how I would feel if I was an athlete in their place. We keep forgetting that these are still young people, in many ways still children, and we're just expecting them to react the same way anyone in a midlife crisis would. It's not fair all the way around.
Yeah, it's not fair, and also it's also not really, genuine from the CAS when they say all parties involved will receive a detailed explanation of how they got to their ruling, because in actuality, everybody's involved. I mean, like the beautiful part of the Olympics, and I think people forget this, and we said this when we were first covering this story, is Olympians are ambassadors. That means we all have a dog in this fight so to say, about what it means to have people awarded for something something as important as a bronze medal. And you were right. Not just two athletes were affected by this, three of them, right? Two from Romania and also Jordan Chiles. People were changed that much. So I think this is absolutely disgusting, and it brings to bear that we need to really change how we govern international sports, especially when it's going to bring so much money on.